Hey guys, good to see you today and be with you. You know, the anger of man never works the righteousness of God. What does that mean? Our human frame getting angry doesn't motivate the kind of positive change that we think it would. We get impassioned, we get righteous indignation, people say, and that kind of thing. It's interesting. I was watching two opposing personalities or people from totally different walks of life with totally different worldviews have discussions, and they were debating on some pretty important recent topics in our world. And what fascinated me about their debate approach was that they maintained decorum and stayed in a sort of an emotional equilibrium that I found fascinating. I actually found it kind of refreshing. It's extremely rare right now. You see so much fault finding and harshness and name calling and dismissiveness. You see people that won't even talk to each other. They become so bullheaded that they're not willing to test their ideas. You know, I heard that President Eisenhower, he was a general during World War II, and he was the president at my birth. He astounded his staff when he would take his plans that he had worked out and send them across the aisle to his opponents. And they said, why are you doing that? And he said, they'll make sure that anything that I haven't thought through, they're going to poke holes in it. And he welcomed that. But that was at a time where I think it was a whole lot less destructive, dismissive, pushy, mean, you know. I don't know. I was only just born then, so I'm not in an experiential observation, but history kind of shows that things need to improve in the area of, for all of us, like it says in James chapter 1, verse 19, it says, "This you know, my brethren, my beloved brethren, but everyone must be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger." And so if we're going to be quick, we ought to be quick to be good listeners. Quick to hear, slow to speak. What I noticed in the debate between these two, they were quick to hear. They were slow to speak. They let the other person speak. They didn't step on each other's words. I thought it was very mature. And it, as a viewer, as a third party, it enabled me to hear the perspectives. And it was interesting because one would say, now I disagree with that, and here's why. And the other one, even body language, it was miraculous to me that they didn't get on the defensive. I was really, I wouldn't say impressed. I was happy that that was being modeled, because it says, "Be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath, for the anger of man does not achieve the righteousness of God." I don't know about you, but I want to be an achiever. I want to accomplish things in my life. I don't want to just hear myself talk and argue and debate just for the purpose of getting my point across. It's like, what good is that unless we're acting on and moving forward in productivity and fruitfulness. You know, this is the main audience we're wanting to please is God. And so there's always something to be gleaned and something to learn in every engagement, every interaction. But here in Proverbs, it talks about, let's see, what verse is it? It's chapter 14, verse 29. "He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is quick-tempered exalts folly. So what I think about these two guys that were debating, one was much younger than the other, but mature beyond his years. And his intelligence has created temperance and sort of a resolve in him. It's amazing when you see somebody that's trying to be objective, trying to be constructive, looking for a positive result. And we're to be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Now, I'm a husband, and it does not mean be quick to hear and give the silent treatment, where you know, because I've done that. I could feel the pettiness of that. It's a control move. It's like, I'm just not going to say anything. Well, that's not what slow to speak means, because we do need to speak. And I've learned in the decades of my marriage that that silent treatment doesn't work, because that's not a correct interpretation of that verse. It's posturing so you can protect yourself. You do sometimes need to buy time so that, you know, there's something about the aptness of a timely word. So it's like, okay, how do I broach this subject? How do I address this? In the case of the debate I was watching, they had a 10-minute window to discuss current world events, and they were going back and forth to, you know, bring clarity to the viewer, to the listener, of what their opinion was about the why of what was happening in this particular pocket of society in this moment in history. When you're interacting with your mate, you might be paying bills. How do we train our son or our daughter that's exhibiting some, you know, new levels of desire for independence? Or, you know, is this rebellion, or is this just a healthy desire for independence? Are they just growing up? Are these growing pains? Or is this something we need to correct? We don't want to overcorrect. We don't want to underdo it. And I've noticed this too, you know, good husbands and wives tend to be, I mean, you have different perspectives, and there's nothing wrong with that, unless it becomes combative and you're adversarial about it, and you never do this right, you don't do, you know, no, change that. It's like, wait a minute, I have this wealth of insight from somebody who doesn't see it exactly like I do. So let me, like Eisenhower sent his stuff in to say, how do you see this, you know? Pick it apart. That doesn't always work. I mean, sometimes exit interviews with, you know, disgruntled or bitter employees for a boss, they want to give you a piece of their mind. That stuff is hard to unsee or unhear. Sometimes it's really constructive and helpful. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. But if they're not friends anymore, you don't have to have that appointment. If they're angry, bitter, they're holding you in contempt, they think you're an idiot, they want to just jab you on their way out, I don't think that's necessary that's not the same as what Eisenhower did. But I think there's always value in being sensitive to the moment, being a great listener, being quick to hear, slow to speak, and definitely slow to wrath. God, I pray you help us. Because in Galatians 5, you said one of the deeds of the flesh is sudden outbursts of anger. You said, be angry and sin not, and not to let the sun go down on our anger. So God, as volatile as society has become, as tense as we've all been tempted to become, I'm asking you to help us. The fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. I'm asking you to help us to channel those things, exemplify those things, yield to those things, flow in those things. And God, I'm asking you to help us with our temper, help us with our tolerances, help us to be good listeners. And I pray that people will go forth into the harvest field with an amazing edge, amazing protection, that when they get baited to get into a escalating moment, they're able to be quick to hear and then slow to speak. And even their fidgeting and even their body language, just they'd be calm. Peace be still. Amen. You can do it. God bless you.